we're talking about DC. Let's make a nice transition here to another to another part of DC. You know, even more fun. There's been plenty of misery in DC. For if it's not in sports, damn it, take it on down to the White House and that street and Congressional Avenue. It's been a year in politics. It's been a year for this nation, for this world, and you know we typically stick to sports, but that's not our thing. We will talk about whatever the fuck that we want to talk about, and this is something that's been bothering all of us, and you know it's been bubbling, but we also have understood people need a little bit of an escape. They need, you know, maybe we're not going to talk about you know, the whatever his fucking role is, Pete Hegseth sending top military plans into a signal chat to random reporters and shit. Maybe we'll talk about, you know, why John Wick could fight the Muppets. That's a proper escape sometimes. But there have been things that have been going on with the Trump administration, with all of the politics that have been, you know, bleeding from our country to other countries that are now finding ways to align with us. We've seen it with El Salvador's president, the quote unquote coolest dictator that there's ever been. And these negotiations on the deportation policies of what's close, you know, it's teetering towards, if you've seen Civil War on that movie from Alex Garland on Max, you're seeing like these foundations for shit that's upsetting enough people that it could feel like, you know, we're breaking down as a nation and breaking down as a world and breaking down our greatest alliances. It's just all been so fucking disheartening, but also so enraging. The tariff shit has just been, you know, everybody's been learning, been trying to figure out tariffs. They've been trying to figure out stocks. Everybody's been trying to figure out what the fuck is going on or going to happen. Luis, you've been one of our best political venters, one of our best ranting minds. What has been going through your mind so far in 2025, and how have you been able to like stay sane through all of this? You gave one of our best lead-ins to the election, talking about Pendeos for Trump. So,
look where that got us.
Yeah.
So I always like to start by kind of explaining the place that I come from when I do my political analysis, because a lot of the times if you say, you know, I'm for this, everybody assumes that, like, you know, if I say something that's like critical of Trump, everybody's like, well, you love Joe Biden and Build Back Better. And I'm like, no, I despise Joe Biden. Joe Biden was a racist. Joe Biden was somebody who put in rules in place that locked up Black and brown people in droves. Joe Biden was against gay marriage for several years until it became politically expedient and good for him to become pro-gay rights. So I despise the majority of the candidates. Kamala Harris locked up tons of people. I thought she was a horrible candidate. Tim Walz, not so much. So I'm not a Democrat. I am a progressive leftist socialist. I believe in, you know, democratic socialism. And, you know, I'm more like on the Bernie AOC train, for anybody wondering, right? So I also love when, you know, the two sides switch sides on an issue. I love to see hypocrisy in place. For example, you know, when Obama was going to appoint a Supreme Court judge, seat that became vacant a couple of months before the new presidency started, the Republicans yelled that that's unfair and that the new president should be able to choose that. And then because there's an election coming up and the people should decide who decides, this can't be that. Blah. Democrats was like, no, it's part of his job. He needs to do it, blah, blah. But the Democrats, and this is another point I always make, the Democrats are cucks. Republicans are the devil, but Democrats are cucks. Democrats love to have the moral high ground. They love to feel like they're right on an issue. You know, Obama, Biden, Bush, they all deported millions and millions of people. And Obama had a chance because he had a supermajority to get anything. They could very easily have fixed immigration and we'd be in a whole different place right now. But they didn't. Excuse me. So All that is to say, when the Republicans were in office and Trump had the same situation, which was to appoint a new person, and the Democrats are like, no, wait for an election. The Republicans are like, nope, part of his job. Let's do it. Boom, boom, boom. Let's get it through. So that gives you the perfect difference between Democrats and Republicans. Democrats feeling like, oh, we will be the party of civility and blah, blah, blah. Yes, we will wait till after the Republicans. The Republicans are like, no, fuck you. We're in power. We're doing it. This is what we want to do. This is what we actually want to accomplish. So we're going to do it. We're not going to be like the Democrats that just talk about it, keep the moral high ground, raise money. It's the old trolley problem. They could very easily fix the problem. But if they fix the problem, they would not be able to run on being the party that fixes the problem. So that's where I'm coming from a political. How does that apply to today? We've once again switched sides on an issue because you have all I heard from the Republicans, the right wing part of the political sphere, is free speech. Comedy's back. Free speech, where I'm a free speech absolutionist, free speech of a ball. I love that because in high school, I wrote a paper about defending free speech and defending the people's right to use racist language, racist symbols. I believe in free speech, but I don't believe in zero consequences for free speech. That's kind of where I'm at. And all I hear about is free speech absolutionism. Comedy's back. If you've been fired because of your political views, we'll defend you, right? All this shit. We're a nation of laws. You guys have heard that one before, right? We're a nation of laws. Yeah, this and that. You can't just do this. We're a nation of laws, right? All of a sudden, those two things are being bombarded with attempts to turn it from, a constitutional system of checks and balances into just fascism. So why should you care about due process being eroded? Why should you care about free speech now being silenced, right? Because when you have people that are critical of specifically Israel in this case, which is the case of, Mahmoud Khalil, who was, arrested, Columbia University, black bag, sent thousands of miles away from his family, allegedly because he was here because you have to be a complete fucking idiot to just look at a demonstration, see somebody who's part of the demonstration, see somebody who's playing the role of mediator between university and protesters. Look at his ethnicity and say, oh, he's here on a student visa. Let's just fucking get rid of him. Right? Then when they approach them, then when they try to detain them, they're like, no, he's actually not on a student visa, which is easily revocable. He's got green card status. He's been through the process. He did things the right way. We're a nation of laws. He does things the right way. Oh, but we're also able to do that. Why? How are you able to take away somebody's green card after they've already gone through the process? Well, and this is the key word, after 9/11, he's a terrorist. So he said something mean about the country that's fighting these guys. So so he's terrorist adjacent, I guess. And then you black bag him, you take him to another state, you hold them indefinitely. You don't give them, So due process. So the people that are pro First Amendment, pro free speech, pro due process are now okay with the erosion of due process. Why should why should I care? Why should other people care if it doesn't affect them directly? Well, because again, this is where we get into the thing that they also love to say, which is if you can't allow gay marriage, because that's a slippery slope. You give these people too many rights, it's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope, blah, 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 right? Well, we're on the slippery slope, right? And, we're escaping fucking P. Diddy with fucking a can of KY jelly chasing after us because we're slipping and sliding. So why should you care that they're eroding due process? Why should you care that a guy with a tattoo of a weed leaf, a smiley face, a cross, and a skull got photoshopped to say MS-13, even though there's zero evidence that those, so M for marijuana, S for smiley face. So they were so this guy was wearing a Chicago Bulls jersey and being brown. That was his crime. He was brown and he was wearing a Chicago Bulls jersey. Gang member.
Mm-hmm.
When they do intake, they take pictures of all your tattoos, right? If he would have had MS-13 tattoos, they would have been on the intake form, the report, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't the reason that they said. They said he was a gang member because he was from El Salvador, and he wore a Bulls jersey.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we have all worn our team's jersey in an area. I've worn a Mets jersey in San Diego. You know, when you're traveling, sometimes you take your team's jersey on you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've all been there. I've been to the Padres game I've been to a Chargers game in a Jets jersey. I did almost get stabbed. So why should you care? It's because it's a test of our due process. It's a test of the erosion of the checks and balances. We need to arrest radical judges, right? You're hearing that right now. We need to arrest radical judges.
Mm-hmm.
The judiciary checks and balances is the only thing that's keeping us from entirely being a different type of country, right? Congress is too afraid to say anything, except for the senator that went down to El Salvador. And then AOC and Bernie were doing the rallies, right? Everybody else is some guy, this guy gave a 36-hour speech. Okay. Where did that get us? Right? Why should you care? So if they can take somebody wearing a Chicago Bulls jersey and take them off the street, say that the marijuana actually is not marijuana, it's for MS-13, and put them in, and then immediately then they're dissolving due process. The difference between the 50 million people that Obama deported, the difference between the $10 million that Biden deported, because I saw another meme where it's like, there's been 30 injunctions on Trump deportations. There were 0 injunctions on any of the Obama, Biden, George Bush deportations, right? Okay. That's because there was due process, right? Because if you were deported during Biden, during Obama, you went to see a court, you were able to order your case, you were able to ask for an appeal, you were able to ask for an extension, you were able to ask if you could leave on your own accord so you could kind of take care of your business, you were going to give a removal date. And then if you missed those, then they would find you and they would deport you. So you were giving due process. People had lawyers. If you are not given the chance to argue your case, if you are not given a chance to do a judge, and they just give you a designation as a terrorist, then they can deport you to a maximum security secut in El Salvador, which is like a torture prison outside of U.S. jurisdiction, where you now have less protections under the law. The same reason that people were getting tortured, in Cuba, and not in the United States soil to help protect themselves. Right. You have the prison, right? And so we've already established that for wearing the wrong jersey in the wrong city, you could be arrested if you're brown, right? They can take your tattoos and take them to mean whatever they want. So even though they didn't make any mention of the MS-13 tattoos when they took him in, and after the entire uproar, what do? They have to go through his old files and look at the pictures that they took where they said, no, it's just a weed leaf, not a gang tattoo. And now they have Trump on there with a picture that says, look, gang tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they're manufacturing facts after the fact, right? To try to get us to buy into the fact that this is the right thing. We didn't fuck up. We didn't take a guy that was living in Maryland and had a family, an autistic kid, had an order from a judge that says, listen, even if we do deport this guy, we cannot deport him to El Salvador because he'd be in danger there. Right? We're in a situation where the Supreme Court says 9-0, you guys need to facilitate this. And they're like, and Stephen Miller, the actual fucking demon that he is, gets on and says 9-0. We won. We actually won the case. It's 09. We won the case 9-0. This very clearly means, look, this is a guy, Stephen Miller, who puts posters of brown people on stage with him and says, these are not the people we went to high school with. We need them out of our community. Stephen Miller, who thinks he's Joseph Goebbels. Stephen Miller, who's a literal fucking demon. Fuck Stephen Miller, I guess is my side point on that one. But this guy gets sent to El Salvador. We got Khalil that gets sent to a prison in Louisiana, thousands of miles from his fiance. This guy's got an American-born child, and he's got a U.S. citizen wife. He was wearing a Bulls jersey in Maryland and not in Chicago. Like, if I could have arrested the people wearing Bulls jerseys in New York in the 90s, I'd be cool with that. But just because why were you a Jordan fan if you were in New York with the Knicks and Ewing?
He's going through enough. Yeah,
it's going through enough. So when I see people in San Diego with Boston jerseys, what should I see something, say something? So this is eroding. So the next step after this is, so if they can get away with getting rid of the illegals, undocumented is the phrase we should be using. If they're able to get rid of the quote unquote illegals, and we don't fight back, then, and then we see them freaking about the radical leftist judges now, right? Radical leftist judges. That is because once we eliminate the decisions, they thought, well, we have the Supreme Court. Like, we bought the Supreme Court, we got a Supreme Court majority, right? But there's still a lot of judges with tenure that get stuff done. And we have a judicial branch as a check and a fucking balance. It's part of the Constitution that they also love to brag about. But now the checks and balances are not working in their favor, and they're getting these injunctions. So if they can successfully convince us that the judges need to go, either through passing laws or through, what's the phrase, stochastic terrorism, where you do the thing and then somebody else does it for you. So if they can get to that point, then there's literally zero things stopping them from making up facts about you, taking one little thing about you and turning it into something else. I mean, I have a weed leaf tattoo somewhere. I mean, I tattoo weed leaves, crosses, and skulls on people every single day of my life. So, why should you care about this if you have tattoos? Because they could take any tattoo you have, say it's bad, deny your due process, and next thing you know, you'll have a black bag over your head and you'll be thousands away from your family without any access to lawyers. No due process, right? If we take the next step where they say, well, the homegirls are next, right? That's what he said to the fucking dictator. Yeah, we got to do the homegirls. There's a lot of bad hombres, right? Let's say best case scenario. Let's say people digest this. They're okay with getting people who are undocumented out and sending them to fucking torture prisons, sending them to states where they totally couldn't go. Then they say, listen, all right, we got the crime is down. We got this, but now our prisons, we need to get the really, really bad ones out of our prisons and send them down there. Right. So again, they're going to feed you this bullshit. So if you would have asked anybody leading up to the election, like, talking about hundreds of thousands, immigrant killers, open borders, they're killing people, they're raping people, they're committing all the crime, right? There was, and then you would think that the number of crimes committed by illegal aliens, undocumented migrants, or whatever the fuck you want to call them, would be thousands, right? Thousands of people getting murdered in the streets, right? There were, I believe, 35 convictions for murder committed by people that were undocumented in the United States last year, out of thousands of murders in the US, right? Now, they're going to say, well, that's 30 too many, right? What about this person? There's people do horrible things all over the place. Mm-hmm. Right. But every time, a white kid, shoots up a school, I don't say every white kid needs to be under surveillance. You know what I mean? Like, or every time, 31 is that's a busy weekend in New York or Chicago or DC or New Orleans. You know, there's probably been 31 murders in the US since we started talking today.
Correct.
Right. You know, so it's not that those 31 murder, and that includes vehicular, like auto accidents. It's not like those 31, it's not like those aren't lives that were lost. It's not that those aren't families grieving. But for you to then take one of those families when you're talking about a guy who you manipulated information about, right, who a Supreme Court has told you need to bring him back, and you'd refuse to take that step backwards, because taking that step backwards means that you're not going against you're going against your script. You're not your whole thing is I'm infallible. I have a mandate to do this. Everybody wants me to do this thing where I get rid of these people, so I can't admit that it's wrong. I'm going to change my mind and say, oh, we knew he had a green card, but we can take that away too. Yeah, look at these tattoos. We looked at them now, and they're very clearly gang affiliated, right? So they can do that. And if they can do that to somebody like that, the next step that they've already told you about is to do that to people that are in prison. That's step 2, right? Who do you think the people that they're gonna choose? Do you think that there's gonna be a lot of white people getting sent to El Salvador, or do you think they're going to take the like shot callers and like the people in the black and brown people in the supermaxes and say, no, these are the worst they're the worst. They're the Bloods and Crips and this and that. We need to get rid of them. The top guys have to go. Right. So now they've allowed you to pick and choose, take U.S. citizens out of the country. Right now, if the courts, if they get away with getting rid of the courts, if something happens or they try to get rid of radical judges, right, or if they try to weaken the judiciary branch through Congress, which they have in the bag, right, all of these things will continue to lead us down that path where we are, in fact, in a dictatorship. So why should you care if you're black? Because eventually they're going to come for black people, right? Just how you guys are a buffer for us on the racism scale, we are a buffer for you on the erosion of rights scale, right? Why should you care if you're LGBT or if you're like gay MAGA? Why should you care? Because they're coming after marriage equality as well, right? They're doing this. They're doing the whole thing. They're doing what they said they were going to do. And the difference between Republicans and Democrats is, like I said, Democrats are cucks. They feel that they just need to hold on to the moral high ground and do this and that, and that's it. While Republicans just do what the fucking they say they're going to do. We're in power, right? Another example is Biden when, he would try to do immigration reform, and then they're like, no, the parliamentarian says you can't do that. When you know what you can do to a parliamentarian? You can fucking fire them and get another person in that says, yeah, you can do that. But no, because they feel that they have to be, and it could be just conspiracy theory. It could be just that they don't really want to fix anything. They the reason that both sides are okay with not fixing immigration is because it allows for the exploitation of labor in the U.S. And a lot of these countries, and a lot of what's happening, and a lot of what drives the economy is the exploitation of migrant labor. Just like those big giant raids, sometimes who calls in those raids on those fucking pig farms and shit like that? The company themselves. Yeah. Right? Because what happens is they get an exploited workforce that's there for years, and they're being exploited, and they're making money for the company. And one of them was like, hey, listen, I know we're undocumented, but can you guys improve their working conditions? Can you guys maybe give us a little bit more money? Can we get more of this? And they're like, oh, ICE. And then they wipe out the workforce. It goes on the news. They're doing enforcement. And guess what happens a fucking week later? They are immediately replaced with another wave of different workers that haven't been exploited, that are just now starting to get exploited. And then they can make money off of those, right? So, like I said, and then you're like, Lou, why do you care? You're in California. You're a tattoo artist. What's going on? And honestly, the economy is okay for us because we work with Navy people and they just got a raise. So even when shit's going to hell, there's still going to be a lot of military people with expendable income. So come on down to SoCal Tattoo and get a tattoo. But Why is it important to me? Because I, at one point, was an immigrant. I am somebody who did things the right way, so to speak. And it took me 20-something years to gain some sort of legal foothold in this country and a temporary protected status. And guess what? Even in that status, because all Obama could do was DACA, right? Even in this status, at any second, they could very easily choose to deny it. The same way Biden gave protections to Venezuelans and Haitian migrants, Trump extended the protection to Venezuelan and Haitian migrants. And now he came back in a second time and he's like, actually, no, sorry. I know we promised you safety and a life here where we have jobs and everything for you, and you guys are contributing to the economy in Ohio and all this stuff. A lot of people that like me hate you. So I need to go ahead and remove this protected status. And now we're going to send you to, now that you've been living in the US, we're actually now going to send you to maximum security prison in El Salvador. And if we make a mistake and you're not supposed to go, we're just going to say, oh, well, right. So there's not that many steps left from being able to do this to the marginalized, to picking off more marginalized groups, to then, they're already looking for people through people's phones to look for un-American thought. They're saying that at this point, it doesn't matter to me who you voted for. I'm not interested in having arguments like, well, you're a lefty or no, I don't give a fuck. That's why I always tell people the Democratic Party is the most corrupt organization in the world. They fucked over Bernie Sanders twice. They disenfranchised thousands of young voters when they fucking force-fed Hillary Clinton, the worst candidate of all down our throats. The Democratic Party is a shit show, right? But so is the Republican. And until we figure out that it's not left versus right, but class warfare, look what they did to fucking Luigi Mangione. They brought him out there with a SWAT team, the mayor of New York. Why are they making an example? Why that one murder in New York terrorized everybody, and now he's a terrorist so that they can give him the death penalty? Why do you think they're doing that? It's to keep us in fucking line. They keep fighting. Oh, you like country music. You're a leftist. You're a rightist. You're broke. We're all just broke, right? It's not us versus them. And when I come to talk about things from a little perspective, I'm strictly trying to tell you as a human and somebody with lived experience what's going on. And thank you for letting me rant.
And that's what we need more of, is the ability to listen. And that's where like shit falls apart. Like I think there's these conversations that if there's a slight difference in opinion, right? If there's a slight difference in opinion between people, they hear something that they don't like, boom, off, echo chambers all over the place. If we have the ability to listen and actually see the commonalities that we have, which is where you said we're all fucking broke compared to the people that are really keeping shit in charge. Like that's a common thread for us. I like that you brought up the Luigi Mangione picture too. That was something that was like straight out of Gotham City. It was insane where that happened. But you brought up, it's a slippery slope. There is no better description of it. You see soft launching, people soft launch relationships. It's our nation soft launching fascism. Like that's what's happening.
Yeah, and I had somebody the other day. I once in a while I'll make time for discussions, just because sometimes I just like to try to open people's eyes and stuff. But I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and they said, and I was like, look, I kind of made that point. I was like, the difference between these deportations is due process. And if you don't see how due process being eliminated and checks and balances being eroded is not going to affect you, then I don't know what to tell you. And his response was, well, you guys had Fauci and nobody elected Fauci and we all had to take a vaccine. And I was like, and at that point I was like, yeah, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, man. I'm like, if you didn't want to take the vaccine, you didn't have to take the vaccine. Like, right. It's all right, man. Like, your body, your choice. That's another one, where we love to flip sides on. But yeah, so yeah, less us versus them, more us versus the rich, I think is what we all need.
That's basically it. That's
class
basically
consciousness.
it.
That's all we really need.
Yeah.
Be truthful with what class you're in, because we all see each other as temporarily maligned billionaires, and and I love the guys that just fucking simp for Elon so hard, and they're like, no, bad times are actually good, because then you get to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and weak times create tough men. Weak men create tough times, and tough times create strong men. And right now we're in the tough times when the tough men. And I'm like, oh, I'm just like, look, we can do everything. Money's not real. Anytime you hear them write a fucking 50 billion check for Israel or for UNS or for the fucking budget, you never worry about it. But all of a sudden, when we want to fund education, kids' lunches and other shit, money's real. When we need money for the VA, money's actually, we got to cut Medicare. We got to cut Social Security. Money's real now. When it's shit that could benefit us, we don't have money for that program. Money's not real. It's there. But whenever we have to write like $1 trillion check for fucking more missiles to bomb more brown people, we find the money. So stop simping for fucking billionaires, because if no matter how hard you throw it back on Elon, he's not going to fucking piss on you. He doesn't give a fuck about you.
Yeah.
Trump doesn't give a fuck about you. Biden doesn't give a fuck about you. None of the rich give a fuck about you.
They'll just go on a fucking tweet liking spree to make you feel
Nancy Pelosi don't care about black people, even though she wear look, man, people getting murdered in the streets, and they fucking like, what we should do? Like, they actually thought about this, wrote it down, sent out a memo. What if we all get the dashiki? And then we kneel. And then we kneel 6 feet apart because of COVID. And then we just kneel, and boom. That's like that's like Gal Gadot singing Imagine from her mansion. Like,
that did not age well.
It's you know what I mean? Like, I'm pro humanity. I'm pro let's just make shit better. Like, that helped me grow as a person, and this is gonna, and then blah, 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 and we're gonna have to look. And as a leftist socialist Democrat, I think, just to close this out for you, because I know you don't want me to lie, tariffs, when done correctly, to support existing manufacturing infrastructure. So if we were going to do specific tariffs to help our farmers, different industries, those are good because they keep union jobs in the U.S., all that good stuff. But just saying tariffs and saying, well, we have a trade deficit with you. You guys are a poor country, and you're sending us whatever fucking thing your little poor country can scrape out of the ground. But we just realized you're not buying our F-150s. You're not buying our diseased chickens. Oh, we're vegetarians, sir. No, you got to buy our diseased chickens. You got to buy our diseased beef, and you got to buy our big ass cars. And they're like, no, we don't need any of that. We don't. Our roads are really small, so we can't have like the fucking dualies on the back. And they're like, you got to buy the cars, or you got to buy guns, one or the other. You need us, because that's what a reciprocal tariff is we import things for you. You don't import things from us. That creates a deficit. It's the fucking dumbest way in the world to think about how you should charge people. Just because there's an island that exports fucking olive oil, but that's all they have, and they don't need the shit we have, that's going to create a deficit. So tariffs to help existing manufacturing, but just saying tariffs, just saying reciprocal tariffs, and just, how long it takes to build a factory, create the skilled labor workforce, recruit the skilled labor workforce, get them trained, and get a product running. It takes months, if not years, to do something like that. So saying we're gonna do 1,000% tariff on chips from China because we're gonna start making them right here, and everybody's like, so when are we gonna start making the? Are we gonna retrofit this factory so that we can make chips? We used to make like George Foreman grills here. How the fuck are we gonna make chips? We used to make Ford Fiestas back here. How the fuck are we all of a sudden gonna make like Teslas? Like, that's just stupidity. So, and then even if you are a company that's like, all right, cool, we're gonna invest in. We're okay. Oh, you guys, okay. Ooh, tariffs. Okay, we're gonna have to build stuff in the U.S. All right, we'll start looking into like planning and building some factories here. Oh, but you want this done in 90 days. Oh, fuck, we're fucked then. But then it's like, but actually, no, we're gonna art of the deal. Pull the tariffs back. I put the tip in, then I put it back out. It's the art of the deal. You don't put it in all the way. You just put it in. You say you're gonna put it in, then you take it out. It drives them crazy. They love the tariffs, and then all of a sudden, the tariffs are off again. And anyway, on goes this fucking hellscape that we're in.
I hear you. I really do. But I don't think you understand how many millions of dollars we spent on the Imagine Dragons soundtrack for those Chevy Silverado commercials. We have to make it back. They're the best songs, some of the best I've heard. They've told me. I truly believe it.
You gotta imagine the dragons. I love it when you looked at.
I've never seen dragons more imagined. These are the most imagined dragons you've seen.
Fuck, when he saw the Tesla and he was like, "It's all computer." I love it. It's all computer. Look,
it's all computer. You throw a rock right at it, just a small crack. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, folks, yes, we got it. Look. I could not have had a better rant for it. You said it all. You said it all for me. The only thing I got, bring Kilmar Abrego Garcia, bring him back, because it's been the most infuriating shit to me of all of it. And just like you've said, it's a slippery slope. What's happening right there with Garcia is it's the soft launch into seeing if this is okay, seeing if it's just going to disappear, if the outrage is just going to fade away, through the news cycle, when things appear, when, whatever the fuck starts capturing your algorithms, if it's the Pope dying, if it's The Last of Us, whatever the fuck is going on, whatever the draft hits and shit, are people just going to slowly forget about what happened to this dude who is locked away unfairly without, he's an administrative error, as they said right at the start? Or are we just going to forget about it and allow this shit to continue to happen? Oh, God.
And you're 100% right. It's an administrative error, but you're going out of your way to Photoshop hand tattoo pictures and to see it was an administrative error. But we're right, because he's a bad guy, and this guy, and look, this lady's daughter got killed. So and they were like the same color. So we're doing it because her daughter got killed. I know you guys are saying that this guy is not a bad guy, but there's a bunch of guys that look just like him that are bad guys. We made a mistake, but he's already there. So what if we just you guys cool if we just leave him there? Because we don't want him here anyway. And he's already over there. And the Supreme Court said we had to, but we're going to ignore the court and see if you guys let us get away with ignoring the court. And if you guys start letting us get away with ignoring the court, then we're just going to ignore whatever court decision we don't like. And that's not checks and balances. That's not due process. And it doesn't matter what the fuck you think about what soy boys or fucking MAGA guys do or think. It doesn't matter. It is a universal truth that erosion of due process, erosion of checks and balances is bad for everyone. And it's hitting the manosphere too, because Joe Rogan already was talking about it.
Yeah,
there's Joe Rogan is starting to talk about wait, what? What? You know what I mean? So the backlash will start. Eventually, this shit is going to start physically affecting more of the people that voted for Trump. It's already affecting them, as you can see at the town halls, and as you can see, it's already affecting people. So this will unravel faster than you think. And, let's hope we don't have to, you know what I mean? So either we're going to slide down to fascism, or we're going to rise up as a people.